There's a man in Manhattan who spent $47,000 last year on something most people would never put on a receipt. Not a car, not a watch, not a vacation. $47,000 on the ability to do nothing for 6 months. That's what he calls it. Not savings, not an emergency fund. The ability to do nothing. He writes it off mentally the same way you write off your mortgage. A fixed cost, non-negotiable. Except he's not surviving. He's buying something invisible. Something that made him $300,000 last year precisely because he already had it before he needed it. And the strangest part is, he doesn't look wealthy. You'd walk past him and feel nothing. No signal, no display, no evidence. He looks like a guy who's given up on the game. But he hasn't given up on the game. He's playing a completely different one. And by the end of this, you're going to understand the rules. And you're probably going to hate them. Because they're going to make your current financial strategy feel like a very expensive treadmill. Let's start with you. Because I think I know you. You earn good money. Maybe not extravagant, but real money. The kind of money your parents would have been thrilled with at your age. You've done the things. The retirement account, the index funds, maybe some real estate. You read the right books. You followed the right advice. You optimized. And something still doesn't feel right. Not wrong exactly, just tight. Tight in a way that shouldn't make sense given what you earn. You look at your income and you look at your life, and there's a gap between those two numbers that you can't fully explain. You're not broke, but you're not free. And the worst part is, you can't even articulate what free would feel like, because you've never had it. You just know this isn't it. Here's what nobody told you. The thing that's keeping you in that gap isn't your income. It isn't your spending. It isn't your investment returns. It's what you think money is for. Because you were taught, and I mean taught the way gravity is taught, as something so obvious it never needs defending, that money exists to be optimized. Earn more, spend less, invest the difference, maximize returns, minimize taxes, compound over time, retire at 65 with enough to maintain your current lifestyle. That's the formula. And it works. Mathematically, it works perfectly. But here's the thing about that formula. It was designed to keep you dependent on your own income for 40 years. It wasn't designed to make you free. It was designed to make you comfortable enough to keep working. And those are two violently different outcomes dressed in the same spreadsheet. So what do the top 1% actually do differently? Not the Instagram 1%, not the influencer 1%, the quiet ones, the ones you'd never identify at a dinner party, the ones whose wealth is invisible because visibility was never the point. They buy something that doesn't show up on any balance sheet. Think of it like this. Imagine two houses, same neighborhood, same square footage, same market value. House 1 is beautiful, renovated kitchen, landscaped yard, fresh paint. But it has one door, one way in, one way out. House 2 is plain, maybe even a little ugly, but it has doors everywhere. Front, back, side, basement, second floor, roof. Doors you might never use. Doors that lead to places you might never go. If you had to choose based on appearance, you'd pick House 1 every time. Everyone would. It's objectively better in every visible way. But what happens when there's a fire? House 1, you're running for that single door. And if it's blocked, you're trapped. House 2, you're walking calmly to the nearest exit. Any exit. You have options you never needed until you needed them. And when you need them, nothing else matters. The top 1% spend their money building doors. Not better kitchens, doors. Exits they may never use. Options that look like waste until the one day they look like genius. And that is genuinely weird to most people, because it violates everything you were taught about efficiency. Why would you pay for something you might never use? Why would you keep cash in a low-yield account when it could be invested? Why would you turn down a higher-paying job to keep your schedule open? Why would you spend money making money you might not need? Because wealth is not money. Wealth is the number of bad options you can survive without fear. And that sentence is going to sit differently in your chest by the time we're done here. Let me show you what this looks like inside someone's actual life. Not the tactics, the psychology. Because that's where the real shift happens, and it's the part that no financial advisor will ever explain because most of them don't understand it themselves. There's a moment that happens before someone becomes genuinely wealthy. Not rich, wealthy. And it doesn't look like a breakthrough. It looks like a strange, almost irrational decision that everyone around them questions. It's the moment they stop optimizing for more and start optimizing for less. Less obligation, less dependency, less exposure, less downside. Not less ambition, less fragility. This is counterintuitive to the point of feeling wrong, because you've been trained your entire life to accumulate more income, more assets, more credentials, more connections, more leverage in every direction. And all of that accumulation created something you didn't notice building around you. Obligation. Every asset you own requires maintenance. Every income stream requires performance. Every credential requires upkeep. Every connection requires reciprocity. You built a beautiful, impressive, optimized machine, and now the machine needs you to run it. You can't step away for 3 months without something breaking. You can't say no to the client who disrespects you because they represent 20% of your revenue. You can't take the risk on the project that excites you because your fixed costs won't tolerate a quarter of reduced income. You are the most productive, most optimized, most financially educated version of yourself, and you have never had less freedom. This is the trap that higher income creates, and almost nobody talks about it because from the outside, it looks like success. From the inside, it feels like a very comfortable cage with excellent amenities. The man in Manhattan understood this, not because he read about it, because he lived inside it for 11 years. He was a senior director at a consulting firm, $210,000 a year, good money by any standard, and every dollar was spoken for before it arrived. The apartment in the right neighborhood, the wardrobe that matched the role, the dinners with colleagues that weren't optional, the gym membership at the place where the partners worked out, the donations to the right causes at the right events. None of it was extravagant. All of it was mandatory. Not legally, socially, professionally, psychologically. His lifestyle wasn't a choice. It was a uniform. And the uniform cost almost exactly what he earned. So he stayed, year after year, performing the role that funded the performance, a perfectly closed loop, earning to spend, to earn, to spend. And then something happened that broke the loop. He didn't get fired. He didn't have an epiphany. His company offered him a promotion with a $40,000 raise, and he felt nothing. Not excitement, not gratitude, nothing. And the absence of feeling where feeling should have been terrified him more than any financial crisis ever had. Because he realized in that moment that more money wasn't going to change anything. 40,000 more would become 40,000 more in obligations within 6 months. He'd move to a slightly better apartment. He'd start flying business class. He'd eat at restaurants one tier above where he currently ate. And in 12 months, he'd feel exactly the same. Tight, busy, dependent, performing. That emptiness was the most expensive education he ever received. And here's what he did with it. This is where it gets strange. He took the promotion. He took the raise. And then he did something that no one in his circle understood. He kept his expenses exactly where they were. Not approximately, exactly. Same apartment, same car, same restaurants, same clothes, same life. And every dollar of that raise, all $40,000, went into what he called his door fund. Not an investment account, not a retirement vehicle, not an optimized tax advantage strategy. Cash. Liquid, accessible, boring, uninvested cash. His financial advisor thought he was having a breakdown. His colleagues assumed he was going through a divorce. His friends stopped inviting him to the new places because he kept suggesting the old ones. And for 2 years, nothing visible changed. But something invisible changed completely. He had built enough liquid reserves to cover 18 months of his current life without earning a single dollar. And that number, 18 months, did something to his nervous system that no raise had ever done. It made him calm. Not happy, not excited, calm. The kind of calm that changes how you walk into a room. The kind of calm that changes how you negotiate. The kind of calm that other people can feel but can't identify. And here's where the money started moving differently. Because calm is an asset class that nobody talks about. His firm lost a major client. Panic everywhere. Partners scrambling, directors updating their resumes in secret, meetings that felt like eulogies. Everyone was operating from fear because everyone needed the next paycheck. He didn't. So while everyone else was playing defense, protecting their position, avoiding risk, saying yes to anything that might preserve their income, he did something that looked insane from the outside. He pitched a completely new service line, something the firm had never offered, something with no guaranteed revenue, something that required 3 months of unpaid development before it could generate a single dollar. His boss said no initially. Too risky, not the right time. We need to focus on what's working. But he had doors. He didn't need this specific job. He didn't need this specific firm. He didn't need anyone's permission to survive. So he pushed back. Not aggressively, calmly. The way you push back when you're not afraid of the answer. He said he'd lead it himself. Absorb the risk personally. If it failed, he'd take the hit. If it worked, he'd want a piece of it. They said yes. Not because the idea was brilliant, though it turned out to be. Because his certainty was disorienting. People who aren't afraid don't ask the same way. They don't negotiate the same way. They don't propose the same way. There's something in the voice, something missing. The frequency of desperation that most people broadcast without knowing it. He didn't have it, and its absence made people trust him more than any presentation ever could. That service line generated $300,000 in its first year. His share was significant. Not because he was the smartest person in the room, because he was the only person in the room who could afford the silence between the question and the answer. The only one who could tolerate the uncertainty. The only one who wasn't performing survival. Now, here's where the numbers confirm what you're already starting to feel. And I want to be precise about this because the math is what makes this undeniable. Most financial strategies optimize for return on investment. Get the highest yield, beat the market, maximize compound growth. And those things matter. But they operate on a timeline that assumes you'll keep earning continuously for decades. The 1% don't optimize for return. They optimize for return on optionality. The difference is everything. Return on investment asks, what did my money earn? Return on optionality asks, what did my money allow me to do that I couldn't have done without it? That $47,000 he kept in liquid cash earned almost nothing sitting in a savings account. Maybe 2%, maybe less. His financial advisor could have shown him a chart proving that money would have grown to 90,000 in an index fund over the same period, and the advisor would have been mathematically correct and strategically wrong. Because that $47,000 in cash didn't earn 2%, it earned him the $300,000 opportunity that only existed because he could absorb 3 months of uncertainty without income. The return wasn't 2%, it was 600%. But it would never show up in any portfolio analysis because the return didn't come from the money. It came from what the money made possible. This is what the 1% understand that almost everyone else misses. Liquidity isn't laziness. Margin isn't waste. Unoptimized cash isn't a mistake. It's a weapon that only works when you don't need to use it. There's a pattern here that once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Every major wealth-building move requires the ability to wait, to absorb, to survive a period of zero or negative return before the payoff arrives. Starting a business means months or years of earning less than you would at a job. Negotiating a better deal means being willing to walk away and survive the gap. Investing in yourself, a skill, a credential, a network, means spending time and money now for uncertain returns later. Every single one of these moves requires a floor low enough and a reserve deep enough that the waiting doesn't kill you. And most people, most smart, educated, ambitious people, have engineered a life where waiting is the one thing they cannot afford. Their expenses are too high. Their obligations are too rigid. Their identity is too entangled with their income. They've optimized themselves into a position where they must keep earning at their current rate or everything unravels. And so they never make the move. They never pitch the new idea. They never negotiate from strength. They never walk away from the bad deal. They never start the thing that could change everything. Not because they lack talent, not because they lack ambition, because they lack margin. And margin is the one thing you can't buy with a higher salary if the higher salary gets absorbed by a higher floor. This is where something shifts inside you if you let it. Not a strategy shift, an identity shift. Because what I'm describing isn't a financial technique. It's a way of seeing yourself in relation to money that most people never adopt because it feels like going backward. The shift sounds like this. Instead of asking, how can I earn more? You ask, how can I need less? Instead of asking, what's the best return? You ask, what's the widest margin? Instead of asking, how do I look successful? You ask, how do I become unstoppable? And unstoppable doesn't mean aggressive. It means unreachable. It means your life runs on so little that almost nothing can threaten it. It means you negotiate without anxiety because the worst outcome isn't catastrophic. It means you create without urgency because your survival isn't attached to any single project. It means you have patience, real patience, the kind that lets compounding actually work instead of pulling money out every time you get scared or excited. The 1% don't spend their money on things that make them look wealthy. They spend their money on things that make them impossible to corner. Low fixed costs, high liquidity, minimal debt, maximum flexibility. They pay for the ability to say no. They pay for the ability to wait. They pay for the ability to absorb a hit that would destroy someone operating at their full income capacity. And yes, it looks weird. It looks like the opposite of what you'd expect from people who can afford anything. It looks boring and small and underwhelming. It looks like a 12-year-old Subaru in a parking lot full of leased BMWs. But here's where almost everyone who understands this still gets it wrong. And I need you to hear this clearly, because this mistake erases everything. The mistake is turning this into austerity, cutting everything, living on nothing, making frugality your personality, turning every purchase into a moral decision, becoming the person who can't enjoy a dinner without calculating the opportunity cost of the appetizer. That's not what the man in Manhattan did. He didn't stop spending. He stopped spending unconsciously. He didn't eliminate pleasure. He eliminated obligation. There is a vast difference between choosing to live simply and forcing yourself to live miserably. One is sustainable for decades. The other lasts about 4 months before you snap and buy a car you can't afford out of pure psychological rebellion. The other mistake is more subtle and more deadly. It's believing you'll start tomorrow. You'll build the margin after the next raise. You'll lower the floor once the kids are older. You'll create the optionality as soon as things calm down. But things never calm down. And every year you wait, the floor gets stickier. The obligations get deeper. The identity gets more fused to the income. Until one day, you realize you've spent 20 years earning more and more and needing more and more, and the gap between those two numbers hasn't moved at all. Remember the man in Manhattan? The one who spent $47,000 on the ability to do nothing for 6 months? He's not in Manhattan anymore. He left 3 years ago, not because he had to, because he could. He works about 20 hours a week now, from a house that costs a third of what his apartment did, on projects he chose because they interested him, not because they paid his rent. He makes less than he used to, significantly less, and he has more than he's ever had. Not more money, more of the thing that money was always supposed to buy, but rarely does when you use it the way everyone tells you to. He has doors. Doors everywhere. Doors he may never open. Doors that cost him something every month to maintain. And he pays that cost the same way you pay your mortgage, without hesitation, without resentment, because he knows something you're only now beginning to feel. The most expensive thing in the world isn't what you buy. It's what you can't afford to walk away from. And freedom isn't the ability to purchase anything you want. It's the ability to survive any outcome you don't. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe and like the video. See you soon.